The Power of Noticing, a part 1 of 2 in our little bite-sized PD series. What do you notice? Those are 4 powerful words that spark engagement, make students able to answer the question asked, activate prior knowledge, and pre-assess student understandings to drive your instruction. So the first way that what do you notice helps in our classroom is with engagement. Many times we experience the same student or students answering our questions. We want to ask an open-ended question such as, what do you notice? Because it leaves the possibilities for all students to answer it successfully. We want to build on our students' observational skills and their natural ability to see something important. Remind students that there is no right answer, and as a teacher, you want to accept all responses. What I tend to do is if I ask what do you notice in the whole group, I write down every response on the board. And if I do it as partners or as individuals, I will still write all the answers on the board. I want to make sure that all my students' answers are valued. So here's our example of engagement. A 3rd grade teacher asked me, how do I get all my students to engage in my lessons? She was really struggling with her group of students. Although it was not a math lesson, I asked her if I could come in and teach at some time to help her. She said that would be great because I mentioned to her that I would like to try something with her. I would like to show her how what do you notice is really powerful. The only time though was available was science time. So I offered to introduce the unit on adaptations that she was going to be covering. And I started with a picture. Because a picture is very open-ended, and a picture also says 1,000 words. So here was the results. So every student was able to offer something. You can see in the gray box, they offered lizard, chameleon, camouflage, green, blue, 4 legs, leaves, branches, rainforest, eyes on the side, hiding in the leaves. So I recorded on the board everything that they said, every answer that they said. When moving to the lesson of the day, I was able to circle the noticings that would apply to the vocabulary word adaptation. So I circled green, blue, camouflage, eyes on the side, hiding in leaves. Those were very important to help get to the big main idea of how does an adaptation help with survival. So I actually had little to teach at this point because our students actually had a lot of connections that they made with this one particular picture and one question. So another way that what do you notice is very helpful, it helps activate prior knowledge. We want to remember that activating prior knowledge is actually finding out what the students already know. Our students come to class with a wealth of knowledge. We also want to make sure that we build on whatever knowledge they do have and what they need in order to access upcoming content. So here we had the Math 6 activity, and we had recently learned how to apply area formulas for triangles and parallelograms to trapezoids. The students were used to decomposing the trapezoid into rectangles, squares, or triangles. So now the students were going to be decomposing complex figures and apply the same formulas that they already knew. There's nothing worse than starting the next lesson in a unit and the kids do not remember or connect to the prior lessons, to the lesson of the day. So the students had some really good thoughts. So I wrote down what they wrote, and this one I did with as a whole group. Complex figure, they noticed the units, feet, they noticed the numbers. They noticed that they could start breaking up the figure into triangles and rectangles. And then we were getting into the meat of it is if they saw a rectangle, then they could have a dimension of 10 by 6 feet. And even though they said the word might, it was a good talking point. And as the kids were sharing, they were building upon each other's knowledge. The final way that a what do you notice or noticing helps is assess understanding. So when I pose a what do you notice, it helps me identify what students understand, and it also identifies do they have any misunderstandings or assumptions about what's going on. It drives my instruction. And I've done it at the beginning, the middle, and an end of the lesson. So this example comes from 7th grade. And I posed the question, what do you notice for this word problem? And the problems the expressions underneath were equivalent expressions. And I wanted to see if my students could make a connection between the quantities and the relationships in the word problem and the potential student work that they can use. So I was actually assessing several things. 1, can my students reason? 2, can they apply the commutative and associative properties to the word problem? I actually had students work with a partner to share what they noticed. This promoted math talk among the students, and it gave me a chance to listen into all the different groups and what they were saying. I was able to find some commonalities of their understandings, and I was able to kind of pinpoint some misunderstandings some of the students have, which was that some of them didn't realize that all 3 of those expressions were valid responses. So that meant I had an opportunity to build or correct the misunderstandings, and I was able to note which students may need one-on-one support or additional practice. So it's great to have students either share with a partner, or if you want to get individualized, you could have students write down on whiteboards before they share, or on scrap paper, or in this case, this was in their notebooks. So what did you notice? Think about, what would you take away from this presentation? If you want to see how you can embed more what do you notice questions in your next math lesson, we're going to have our next bite-sized PD episode on the power of noticing part 2 of 2.